Hello and welcome back to another video. So today we've got one of our discussion piece videos, and what I want to look at is concept albums, and I'm asking the question, are they good or are they bad? And what do I mean by good and bad? Because obviously everybody's got their own tastes, everyone's got their own preferences when it comes to music, and some people might like solely listening to stuff with a bit of a story involved. Some people probably wouldn't. So when I say good and bad, I'm not necessarily looking at are they good and bad for the industry, or are they good and bad for like a band to release. I'm just looking at, are they good and bad in the concept of, do they do as well with their audience as a regular album would, where it's not got a story, it's not got lore, it's not, about something, it's just music that makes you feel something, or if it's not something that people enjoy that much. So obviously, as I say, everyone's got their own thoughts on this, everyone's probably got their own opinions, so let me know down in the comments at the end of this video if you think concept albums are a good thing or a bad thing for when it comes to a music group's base fandom. I'm interested to hear your thoughts. So let's jump into what I've got written down. So let's talk about concept albums. Are they good? Well, if they're done correctly, they most definitely can work well, and we have had that shown to us. For example, right, look at Lorna Shore. Back when Tom was in the band, they did an album called Flesh Coffin, which I haven't reviewed on this channel, but I have listened to it cover to cover extensively, several times over. So this album, I did not realise until quite a while after I had found it, is actually a concept album. And this album tells the tale of an unnamed protagonist who deals with depression and suicidal thoughts, and his journey through the ether and what happens to him after he does finally get to end his own life successfully. And like I said, admittedly, it took me a few listens and a few years to realise that this was a concept album. Another place to look for, if you want good concept albums and a beacon of passion when it comes to having a concept and working on it tirelessly to make sure your audience knows exactly what is going on in the lore, with a series of flowing concept albums and EPs and narratives in the works, is the boys over at The Gloom in the Corner. I don't know if I've spoken about them on here before, but I cannot sing their praises enough. They even have a supplemental document or two floating around online that they've written, which helps to keep you up to date with the narrative, and tell you like what's going on out of the actual narratives between the albums, because obviously they got to keep the story flowing from album to album, so they try to write stuff down and put it online to help people remember, oh, okay, so that's what the narrative was in the last album, this is what it is going into the next album, sort of thing. And it's insane how detailed and in-depth it gets, and again, it's really a showcase of their passion for the idea and the lore behind it. So I remember when my friend, he showed me their song, I think it was "Bleed You Out" or whatever it's called. Um, and he was like, "Oh, yo, check this out. It's just a sick song, and the entire EP is pretty sick." And I was like, "Fucking hey, this is pretty good." And then eventually he was like, "Oh shit, I didn't realize that band I showed you the other week, they've actually got like, you know, a full album." And then he sent me the document, or showed me the document, and he was like, "There's actually like, you know, lore behind it. There's character arcs, there's narrative, there's like full on wars between good and evil, and like agents fighting the dark, and tragedy and loss, and it's a fucking journey, I can tell you that." It's possibly one of my favourite concept pieces I've ever heard of. But in saying that, where others seem to thrive, like Gloom in the Corner, others have tended to fail. Some come back to do better examples, or better like attempts at this. Others fail hard and don't go back, for example. One concept album I've given so many tries but never clicked is Avenged Sevenfold's The Stage. And from what I've seen, subsequently their newest album is in a similar concept vein, but a bit more avant-garde. Um, Now, don't ask me to tell you what the narrative is of The Stage. I couldn't honestly tell you. Um, I've tried, and I've tried. I've listened to it so many times because it was bought for me as a anniversary present uh, once before. Um, and I remember hearing it was a concept piece, and you know, I was like, okay, this could be interesting. Avenge trying their hand at something different, and it wasn't bad musically compared to their new album, which, from what I've heard, is musically very. Um, but like I say, if you ask me to tell you what story they were trying to tell, I would not be able to tell you, honestly. Um, it's just not clear. It's not evident that there's an arc, that there's a story, or anything going on, and it's kind of weird, you know. And don't get me wrong, I know writing a concept album or concept EP isn't easy. I have, for the shits and giggles, tried my hand at it myself. And what I came out with was fucking abysmal. I am my own harshest critic. It was shit. It will never see the light of day. Um, so yeah, obviously, more power to the people that can get it to work for them. And I understand like why some people might struggle with the idea of, oh, we want you to release a concept album, because I feel like concept albums. This could be a controversial opinion. I don't really know. I've not done too much googling, because obviously this is my own thoughts and everything. So I feel like concept albums are kind of like the record label going, okay, look, we want you to put something different out. You know, it's all well and good putting an album out, but we want something we can market, we can make merch off of, you know, and go. We want something with the characters in it and all, and that's how the concept album was born. I feel like, you know. But saying that, obviously, I don't know when the first concept album was ever released. That would be fucking insane. Because I tried looking up like a list of best and worst concept albums ever released in the music scene, and I was getting some weird ones. I had one thrown at me, which was from, I think, the guitarist of Nightwish. He did like the stories of Scrooge McDuck or something, And then there's obviously that one Metallica concept album they did with some dude called Lou Reed, I think it was, which I think that's the album that spawned the "I am the table" meme that wrestling frequently relates back to. So yeah, even the big bands and like the big names aren't privy to falling at the hurdle, you know. So back onto track, and obviously, you know, there are bands like, you know, Gloryhammer, Twilight Force, Windrose, etc., that are built upon the whole idea of concepts and characters and um, gimmicks, which this is something I will be looking at in my next Let Us Discuss piece, is gimmick bands and if they're good or bad for the industry, and my thoughts. And obviously, I for one do enjoy the works of those three that I have listed there. I have listened to almost every Windrose album. Um, I say almost every because I've listened to the remasters of their earlier works, not the actual earlier works. Gloryhammer, I've listened to pretty much everything they've put out, including their new stuff with their new singer after Angus or whatever he's called was gone. I have listened to his band, which is basically the same thing, Angus McSix, you know, and Twilight Force. I have almost every album of those, I think, apart from their newest one, which I have yet to pick up. But, you know, so it's kind of it is a big thing in the industry, is like, you know, having something to brand and having something to be able to create from. And I think this is where certain people can thrive. Like, if you're a fucking chaotic creative genius, I think the concept album sphere really could help you hone your craft and help you thrive. But I think if you're more used to writing in a very traditional sense of just lyrics without having to have, you know, a full fucking tome of lore behind it, it can throw you for a bit of a loop. Why is it every time I start talking, a bird out there starts fucking cawing? Shush! I'm trying to record a video here, you dick. Like I say, even big bands like, you know, My Chemical Romance have turned their hand to concept albums with The Black Parade, which was a massive success. And then on the other side of things, if you look at, I think it's called Danger Days, I can't remember the full album title, but that was technically a concept piece based on a comic book that I think Gerard Way had written, and that was the last thing they put out before they went on their merry way. And, you know, Frank Iero had his 7,000 other different bands, and Gerard was doing this, that, and the other, and the other two were doing other things as well. So I'm not saying that had anything to do with their downfall, but, you know, one was definitely more successful than the other, in my opinion. So, you know, so are they good or are they bad? But, you know, it's kind of, I've kind of boxed myself into a corner by asking that because it is a broad spectrum. Um, you know, there's more good than bad, I would say, but one dud, like, say you're trying to do, I don't know, say you've just started your band and you go, fuck it, we want to do our first album is a concept piece about, I don't know, fucking David versus Goliath in space, but the Goliath is actually like this massive space worm, and David is just a little pod of survivors on a fucking ship, you know? If you try and do that as like your very first piece without being established, without being experienced, maybe, I guess. It could possibly kill your momentum dead in the water, and a dud can definitely kill the mood in a discography. But that can be also be said for just regular old albums as well. There's been many bands that I've been a fan of and they've released an album and I'm like, fuck, this sucks, and then I lose interest in them, you know, um, until something good comes back around. For example, Bring Me the Horizon, but when they dropped AMO, I hated that album with a passion. There was like 4 songs on there I enjoyed, and that was about it. It was just not my cup of tea. But then their next release, which I think was like Post-Human Survival Horror Part 1, that I thoroughly enjoyed, and that was a banger. So, and I know neither of those were concept pieces, but they go to show like a dud in a discography can definitely lose the interest of people, shall we say. But, you know, that one dud can, like I say, it can kill the mood. And if this is what you enjoy, is like concept pieces, there's definitely choices out there that could be the right album for you. There's definitely bands out there like I think it's Coheed and Cambria, who their entire thing is like, again, similar to the Gloom in the Corner, one massive fuck off concept, from what I understand. So it definitely takes some searching and looking in the right places to go on that journey. But, you know, if your thing is going on journeys through hell or sci-fi fights in a fucking futuristic weird Scotland with wizards and unicorns and things, and bloody dwarven battles, or pirates plundering precious booty off of the shores of Spain and stuff like this, then there is something for everyone, I think. You just need to do the research into the album and or into the artist to see if this is what they do. You know, it's easy to say that though, but like when you're checking the themes, tales, and just the sound of them to see if they're your cup of tea, to know if the artist is for you, it's easy to go, oh, this doesn't sound very good. But then you could listen to their next album in their discography after that, and it could actually be a fucking gem. So I feel like this, especially for me, a lot of this is my own thoughts and opinions on the matter. I feel like for me, like I said, sometimes my taste in music has been tainted by a bad concept piece. But at the same time, it has been some concept pieces that have got me into bands. So, you know, the scales are kind of like petering, like slightly more to the good than the bad. But again, as I've been saying throughout most of this, everyone has their own thoughts, everyone has their own opinions. Like, I may be a semi fan of concept albums, but you know, Jerry down the road might absolutely despise concept albums and think they're the worst idea since, I don't know, alcohol-free alcohol. I couldn't think of something that's a bad idea. But you know, but it's a weird one. I think I've possibly boxed myself into a corner with this topic, but it just felt like something that I wanted to talk about and do a video on. And like I said, the next part of this video will be talking about gimmick and concept bands, and like if having a gimmick slash concept behind your band and being your characters can help that as well. So that will be coming in a few videos time after the 6-song roundup, the next album, and the next 2 EP review. So I feel like this has been longer than I intended for it to be, so I will be loving you and leaving you with that. And obviously, like I said, let me know in the comments below um, what your thoughts on concept albums are, if you're a fan, if you're not a fan, and if you are not a fan, let me know why. I want to see if there's a specific album that has turned you off of the idea, or if it's just not something that you're into. Obviously, as I always say, don't forget as well to like, subscribe, share with a friend that's into music if you think they give a shit. Um, and also, if you have something you would like me to look at reviewing, slap it in the comments. I have my next 5 or 6 videos already lined up, but after that, I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing. So, you know, feel free to suggest a couple songs or an EP. Fuck, if you want an album, suggest an album and I will have a look at it. But with that being said, this is the end of the video, my friends, and with that, I will be bidding you adieu. And remember, stay safe out there. Goodbye.